plane, Firefox, the most devastating killing machine ever built.
The weapon system is one of the most advanced ever conceived, with a thought-guided, thought-controlled arsenal on board the plane. If the Soviets can mass produce it, it will change the structure of our world.
Don't say anything. Just fly the damn plane.
I'm a tiger.
Digital gun.
A Soviet MiG-25 drops out of the sky and aims for a civilian airport in Japan. The runway is too short. The jet overruns, blows a tire, and stops basically on fumes. Then the pilot gets out and fires warning shots into the air because, surprise, he's not lost. He's defecting. This wasn't just a pilot seeking freedom. This was a weapons heist, one that ripped open the USSR's most guarded aviation secret, the MiG-25 Foxbat. During Korea, Vietnam, and the Arab-Israeli wars, Western pilots had tangled with Soviet aircraft for years. MiG-15, 17, 21, 23 types, and Sukhois showed up everywhere the Cold War got hot. During the Cold War, both the Soviets and USA were in a constant battle to obtain as much technical information as possible regarding each other's military weapons and capabilities. Combat aircraft were at the top of the list, especially the MiG-25. It was the one plane that stayed mostly out of reach, fast, high, and secret. So the West filled the vacuum with worst-case nightmares until they obtained one. Who was Victor Belenko? Why did he defect? What was the end result of his defection? Was getting the MiG-25 beneficial to the West? Hello, I'm Colin Heaton, former history professor, Army and Marine Corps veteran, and welcome to this episode of Forgotten History.
The beginning of the toughest 26 days in Marine Corps history.
With confidence in our armed forces.
36th President of the United States died this afternoon.
Tell them there are children and women in here and to call it off.
Victor Ivanovich Belenko was born in Nalchik on February 15, 1947. After his parents divorced, he lived with relatives and attended the basic Soviet education system. In 1971, he graduated from Armavir Higher Military Aviation School for pilots, often called the Armavir Academy. He was trained in fighters, specifically the MiG-25, through the Soviet aviation pipeline, and by 1976, he was married and a highly qualified Foxbat pilot with the 513th Fighter Regiment based near Shugayevka in the Far East, close to Vladivostok. Belenko and his wife had a child while there, but the marriage was apparently very unstable. By 1976, Allied intelligence couldn't get close enough to learn what the MiG-25 really was, and it hadn't been properly tested or engaged in combat where outsiders could measure it. Every time the MiG-25 came up in reports from around the world, U.S. intelligence was gathering all they could. Israel was a major source of basic information. The Foxbat's debut was in Egypt in 1971, with permission of President Gamal Abdel Nasser. Under the command of Colonel Alexander Bezhevitz, commanding the 63rd Detached Air Unit, which was formed that year, it was overseen by General G. Bybevsky, and the Mikoyan Design Bureau was represented by Deputy Chief Designer Lyudmila Shengeleya. The purpose was reconnaissance missions. Alexander Bezhevitz recalled, reconnaissance flights were carried out in pairs with a 30-second interval between them. Initially, it was planned to keep 1-minute intervals, but this was reduced to improve the already low chance of our planes being intercepted. In 1971-1972, the pilots carried out 13 combat missions. In one mission, myself and Uvarov flew at a distance of just 18 miles from Tel Aviv, while the allowed distance was 25. Permission for such flights was given by Chief Military Advisor Okhanev. Israeli attempts to intercept MiG-25Rs with Mirage 3s and F-4E Phantoms, or to shoot them down with surface-to-air Hawk missiles, were unsuccessful. September 6, 1976 started as a routine training sortie. Then Belenko breaks off, drops low, heads out over the Sea of Japan, and uses altitude and terrain tactics to make radar tracking harder. Belenko, having planned his escape, broke off from his flight and headed east, flying very low through canyons to avoid being detected by his fellow pilots. Belenko knew that his fellow pilots would try to shoot him down. He had no margin for error. Within minutes of crossing over the Sea of Japan, the Japanese Air Self-Defense Forces got radar contact, and the JASDF scrambled F-4EJ Phantoms from Chitose Air Base. But Belenko's low altitude, cloud cover, and tracking limits made a clean intercept difficult. Another problem was the MiG-25's incredible speed of more than 1,500 miles per hour when on afterburner, which had been noted by air forces all over the world, who tried but failed to intercept the Foxbat. The wake-up call was that a Soviet jet entered into Japanese airspace, and Japan could do very little about it. Belenko's pursuers broke off after they could not track him on their radar and to avoid giving the appearance of a mass attack against Japan. Belenko wanted to land on a military air base, and he chose Chitose, the same base where the Japanese fighters had taken off. But weather, navigation, and low fuel forced him to the civilian airport of Hakodate, where some accounts describe a near miss with a departing airliner. Belenko landed, deployed the drag chute, and still overran the runway because it was too short. He was out of fuel and blew a tire. Predictably, a crowd gathered, and Belenko was probably afraid of being attacked personally, as well as people damaging the MiG-25 further. Pulling his Tokarev pistol, he fired warning shots into the air and demanded asylum in Russian. Belenko was immediately arrested and faced several charges, such as illegally entering Japanese airspace, illegally landing on a civilian runway, and discharging a weapon in public. The Japanese security detail took him into custody and secured the aircraft, covering it up from public view. The engines had barely cooled when the Kremlin was calling Tokyo, demanding the immediate return of both the MiG and Belenko. They also demanded that there be no inspection of the fighter and no questions asked. Japan initially limited access to the MiG-25, but then allowed American experts a deeper technical exploitation. The U.S. military knew in real time what had happened, and the U.S. Air Force and CIA moved in fast to debrief Belenko. They wanted to know his motivation, his method of escape, his knowledge of the Foxbat, and they supported his asylum request. But during this time, Japanese officials were trying to balance national law, public optics, and increasing Soviet pressure. President Gerald R. Ford was informed of the developments, and he personally intervened on Belenko's behalf. There is no doubt that he was a legitimate defector and not a double agent planted by the KGB or GRU. Belenko had just delivered the most wanted aircraft in the world, and all he wanted was freedom. While Belenko was educating his former enemies, Moscow was going through convulsions. Negotiations continued through October, and everything was covered, such as cost, transport, inspection disputes, and the whole diplomatic knife fight. Japan's posture, keeping the U.S. directly out of the turmoil, was basically, yes, you'll get it back, but after we learn everything we can. By mid-November, the evaluations were done, and the disassembled MiG was packed up into 30 large crates and loaded onto the Soviet cargo ship Taganos. Upon the MiG-25 being returned, the Soviets alleged that the jet was missing parts and essential avionics and electronics material. Japan responded by reminding the Soviets that it was their pilot who illegally violated Japanese airspace. And the Soviets? They had to assume that the MiG-25's sensitive capabilities were compromised and responded with damage control, procedures, security, and technical countermeasures. On September 25, 1976, the MiG was partly disassembled and moved from Hakodate to Hayakuri Air Base aboard a USAF C-5A Galaxy so it could be torn down and analyzed properly. The results of the examination proved that the Foxbat was a fast interceptor with serious speed and altitude performance, but it was not the all-purpose superfighter many feared. Belenko himself was a wealth of knowledge, even providing all the technical specifications which calmed the fears of Western analysts. Basically, the reports that resulted were that the Foxbat was very fast but heavily underperformed when compared to American-made aircraft. Belenko's particular aircraft was a new type, representing the very latest Soviet technology. The aircraft was assembled very quickly and was built around its massive Tumansky R-15B turbojets. As in many Soviet aircraft, rivet heads were left exposed in areas that would not adversely affect aerodynamic drag. But it was built to be as rugged as possible. The MiG-25 was largely built from nickel alloy or inconel steel. The steel components of the MiG-25 were formed by a combination of spot welding, automatic machine welding, and hand arc welding methods. Of interest, it was noted that the welding was mostly done by hand and construction was relatively crude. Initially, there was concern that the metal welds would crack when the aircraft experienced the normal jolting of a landing. This did not prove to be the case, and any cracks that developed in service were easily welded in the field. A small amount of titanium and aluminum alloys were also used in the construction of the MiG-25 in areas particularly susceptible to high aerodynamic drag. The MiG-25's combat radius was only 186 miles, and a maximum range on internal fuel at subsonic speeds was only 744 miles. In fact, Belenko had only just made it to Japan without sufficient fuel for a carefully planned landing. He narrowly missed a commercial airliner taking off and overran the available runway. Belenko was also a major source of intelligence on Soviet air defenses. He also described massive rates of alcoholism among pilots and ground crews, since the fuel was a distillate much like 101 proof vodka, and 70% of the aircraft's internal volume was occupied by fuel tanks. The fuel was injected in a whirling motion similar to the SR-71 Blackbird aircraft. The MiG-25 fuel was suitable for high-temperature operations designated as T6, with a freezing point of -62 centigrade and an ignition point of 54 centigrade. The MiG-25 had a total internal fuel capacity of 4,666 U.S. gallons, which it desperately needed as it gulped fuel rapidly. Its ceiling was 67,915 feet, with a maximum takeoff weight of 80,950 pounds, fully loaded with fuel and ordnance. Belenko also confirmed that the MiG-25 was designed to counter the American XB-70 Valkyrie bomber and had the ability to reach Mach 3. Belenko explained that the Foxbat had a slow roll and turn rate but was unmatched in climb rate. The powerful forward-looking radar, capable of burning through the electronic countermeasures of enemy aircraft, and 4 air-to-air missiles with 100-mile range were also of interest. The radar's power system operated on vacuum tubes, which may seem odd to Western observers, but their use was very practical for the Soviets and served them well, including reduced susceptibility to damage from the electromagnetic pulses generated by nuclear explosions. Soviet officials pushed hard for access to Belenko. A Reuters report preserved in the Ford Presidential Library files records Japan saying Belenko didn't want to meet Soviet diplomats, but Japanese authorities pressed him to allow Soviet embassy contact to avoid any misunderstanding with Moscow. Following their visit, the Soviets immediately tried to frame him as coerced or drugged by the Japanese, if not coerced in total. Japanese officials denied Soviet claims that Belenko was compelled and also denied allegations that the meeting showed he was not in a normal state or under the influence of narcotics. Then the Soviets moved into an old, tried-and-true method, using family pressure as leverage. In the Ford Library material, there's a memo describing a telegram sent to the White House from Belenko's mother and wife urging his return. Exactly the kind of pressure tactic Soviet services liked to weaponize publicly and privately. However, U.S. diplomats treated the situation like the defector handling crisis which it was. A State Foreign Service oral history recounts the embassy scrambled to process Belenko as a defector while simultaneously managing Japanese legal nerves and Soviet rage. The CIA Museum later described months of debriefings and the manuals and detailed notes he provided. One CIA source said, "A few months with Belenko saved a decade of intelligence gathering." The CIA museum later displayed his knee-pad notebook ID as artifacts tied to the defection. As it turned out, the scariest part of the MiG-25 was in the imagination of its Western adversaries. Technical experts had overestimated the jet's capabilities. As for Victor Belenko, he received asylum and became a U.S. citizen through a private bill signed by President Jimmy Carter. This was an intelligence shockwave to Moscow. Pilot plus aircraft exploited under global attention. Japan learned some hard lessons too. The incident exposed gaps in their air defense regarding tracking and interception, which required major improvements. Despite the MiG-25's limitations, inaccurate intelligence analysis, and several false assumptions causing a panic in the West, where it was initially believed the MiG-25 was an agile air combat fighter rather than a standoff interceptor. Nonetheless, the Foxbat proved to be more useful in the reconnaissance role than as an interceptor. This was valuable information for the U.S., Japanese, and NATO air defenses and its pilots. In response, the United States launched a new, ambitious program, which resulted in the McDonnell Douglas F-15 Strike Eagle. But there were concerns that the Soviets may have attempted to abduct Belenko and take him back. There was also the fear that he may be targeted for assassination. Belenko later worked as a consultant and speaker, becoming a long-term Cold War inside source on Soviet air defense culture and systems. He made many friends in the American military aviation community, and his great friends were World War II fighter ace Clarence Bud Anderson and his son, Jim Anderson, also a USAF fighter pilot. They considered Belenko to be a great guy and friend. But there has always been a long-standing question. Was Belenko expected in Japan and over time prepared for the flight? He fled to Japan the very first time he had a full fuel load, taking the classified technical manuals with him, which was expressly forbidden. Had he previously contacted the West informing them that he would defect to not be shot down? We may never know. Victor Belenko remarried and had 2 sons, living a rather quiet life. The New York Times reported in November 2023 that he died in a nursing home in a small town in Rosebud, Illinois, quoting his son Paul Schmidt, from an unspecified illness on September 24, 2023, but his death was not immediately reported. Victor Belenko is still considered one of the great heroes of the Cold War in the West, a man who fled communism and aided in unraveling the mysteries around an aircraft that stoked unnecessary fear and accelerated a new NATO defense program that changed aviation history. Thank you for watching this episode of Forgotten History. If you liked what you saw, please click like, share, and subscribe. And if you would like to assist with the ever-increasing cost of production, please consider becoming a channel member and joining our Patreon page. Thanks for watching.